Out of all the servants that I've covered, I gotta say, you Avicebron fans were by far the most vocal. And I admire your commitment coming back to each and every poll and voting for him, still knowing that it would probably not make a difference. Yet, you still voted anyway and left your comments talking about how he was so shrouded in mystery and how you all wanted to know more. And for that, this video is dedicated to all of you. I expect an active comment section after this one because I'm sure to make a few mistakes about everything, so go ahead and point those out and leave your thoughts in the comments below. They're always welcome here. Also, any question will most likely be answered by Cake, so props to him for being so helpful all the time. So let's talk about the mysterious caster of black from Fate Apocrypha, aka Avicebron, aka Solomon ibn Gabirol. Gonna be honest here, he's not your typical heroic spirit that's known for going on numerous adventures and winning lots of wars. He was a simple poet and a philosopher only known throughout history for his many written texts. Born in Malaga, Spain around the year 1000, he lived a rather basic life. One that required very little work to get by, but much like the common weeaboo, he was considered a social outcast. He had parents that raised him well, but they died when he was still young, leaving him as an orphan to be taken in by a fairly important politician at the time. This meant that he had to move to the city of Zaragoza, which at the time was a place that nurtured the Jewish culture. Solomon had continually studied various texts that were central to Judaism. This, combined with his natural skill for poetry, resulted in some of the greatest poems to be ever written for his time, which would then be passed down for generations to be studied to this very day. Now, although Solomon was a philosopher too, his philosophical works weren't nearly as effective at conveying his messages as the poems that he wrote. As such, only 2 of his philosophical texts were passed down, and one of which wasn't even credited to him until the mid-1800s because it was written under an alias. The Fons Vitae was a Latin philosophical work authored by Avicebron. As you already know, Avicebron was Solomon, but that was only discovered after it was realized that the Fons Vitae was a translated version of Solomon's work, and the resulting Latinization of Solomon's name brought forth Avicebron. The Fons Vitae, meaning Fountain of Life, talks about the nature of creation and how to understand life. This book is one of a few that are said to have built the foundations of Kabbalah, a system based heavily off the belief of miracles and borderline magic within holy texts. Kabbalah is not something so easily explained and can definitely be misinterpreted if not explained correctly. So I won't even try to get deeper into the subject. Just know that it deals with mystical elements and Avicebron had a hand in forging it. Other than his works in poetry and philosophy though, there's nothing much else to point out about his life. Even his death can't be considered a tragedy because no one really knows how it happened. But you can see where his obsession with his golems come from. As someone who was so obsessed with creationism and what was essentially the meaning of life, it makes a bit more sense as to why he was so hellbent on creating life itself. Which brings me to his noble phantasm, the golem Keter Malkuth, Royal Crown, the Light of Wisdom. In the Fate universe, Avicebron was a Kabbalist, which basically means he was proficient in magic. He used this magic to create golems to help him with his tasks. But his ultimate goal, what you could even call his wish for the Grail, would be to finish the golem Keter Malkuth, who he refers to as Adam, the primordial human. This golem is the embodiment of God's miracle that was the creation of life itself. It's made out of similar materials to his other golems, but simply putting together the structure for Adam is not enough to make it become the perfect existence. A core is required because an infinite amount of magic must be used to fuel the golem. The best core would be a first-class magus or a homunculi like Sieg with high-quality magic circuits. Basically, the more powerful the core, the more powerful the golem. Once Adam is created, it becomes a whole nother existence that can only be classified as an autonomous reality marble. Adam projects the otherwise non-existent world of Eden into reality. Its ability is to create Eden and transform the world into paradise by using its endless supply of mana to alter its surroundings. The golem itself has what's called the blessing of the earth, meaning that while its feet are in contact with the ground, it can't be destroyed. However, upon birth, Adam is still quite easy to take down, because at that time it's in its weakest form. Adam grows exponentially until it reaches its max size of over 1,000 meters, which at that point it would be near impossible to defeat. So once Ruler had witnessed Adam's growth, she knew that she had to do whatever was possible to put it at a stop right then and there. That being said, Avicebron can also create numerous lower tier golems that act as servants. They're basically lesser evolved versions of Adam since they're technically still attempts at a reproduction of the creation of life. His whole skill set revolves around making these golems, being able to produce at most 30 in a day. Although, as we saw, they don't quite stand a chance against any of the servants. Not every golem is the same either. How they were constructed and what constitutes their body composition determines their abilities. Some can just be straight up tanks made from earth and jewels, other limber from plants and trees, and some can even use magecraft if you insert magical circuits into their body. He can also control multiple at will and even convert them into a fluid-like composition that can then harden to shackle enemies. So the golems are pretty much a convenient little army that can be used as a nice distraction when the time comes, especially if he's able to spend a couple of months to amass their numbers to the thousands. And that's the caster of Black. Let's be honest, he wasn't quite as interesting as any of the other servants, and his abilities were actually fully showcased in the show, so it's not like they even left anything out. They just gave us a very brief glimpse at his past life, and then that was it. So here's the abridged version of his story. Because he was a social outcast, he grew a disdain towards humanity, which made him obsessed with paradise and the primordial human that would bring it into existence. Neither a tragic hero nor a renowned mage, simply a poet and a philosopher that practiced in Kabbalistic techniques. So yeah, that's it. A pretty short episode today, and next week will be Spartacus's turn, but stay tuned for that one because after that I'll be making a special announcement regarding my Fate videos. But as always, thanks for watching, and if you enjoyed this type of anime content, then you already know what to do. So until next time, ciao!